the radio in patches. As you can see, I have no display. I can't see what time it is. I can't see what radio station I'm on. Other than that, everything basically illuminates. The CD player down at the bottom, I don't believe that display illuminates, but if I recall correctly, it doesn't illuminate unless you put a CD in it. I don't have one to test it out, but anyway, the main display is the issue here. Oh, we got a little bit of street light. Oh, I can almost see what time it is. I can almost see what channel I'm on, but yeah, kind of annoying. So we're gonna pull this radio apart, rip out all these old green incandescent bulbs, and put in some nice bright white LEDs. All right, guys and gals, on today's video, we are going to do our LED conversion in our 2nd gen Legacy, 1st gen Outback double stack radio. First step in removing your radio, you'll need to remove the cup holder. Pop your cup holder open. There are 2 Phillips screws on either side. Remove the cup holder and the 2 Phillips head screws. Next, we'll remove the ashtray. There are 2 Phillips head screws located underneath the ashtray. We got one here and one over here. Once those are removed, you can pop this down. And next, we will remove the 2 screws from our center console here. We can then pop this trim piece up and slide it back. Then we can pop up our shifter surround trim and pull it back. Once that's out of the way, you can pull the trim piece off that surrounds the radio. You gotta wiggle a bit to get the cigarette lighter out. Lay that to the side. Now we can remove the radio. We have 4 Phillips head screws on either side of the radio. Actually, there are 2 more Phillips head screws inset down the sides here I forgot about. All right, with the 6 screws removed, you can pull out your radio to access the wiring harness and your antenna. Antenna is in the top corner, it just pops out. Wiring harness below that. Push the tab in on the top of the center of the connector and pull the harness connector back.
And then below that is another small 2-wire connector if you have the double stack with the CD player. Again, push in the tab and pull the harness back. And that's it. We've got our radio removed, ready to take it inside, pull it apart, and replace the LEDs. First thing we need to do is separate the radio and CD deck. First, we'll pull this plug here from the CD deck and the radio. Next, we'll remove the 3 screws on each side plate that joins the 2 units together. Remove the side plates, keep the fasteners all together. We can separate the radio and the CD deck. We'll place the CD deck off to the side for now, focusing on the radio first. Let's see if I can remember how to disassemble this. I don't think we have to do anything actually to the radio. I think we just pop the faceplate off. I'm going to clean this up real quick because it's kind of gross and cruddy, and we'll be right back. Okay, cleaned off the old sticky cola residue. And to remove this faceplate, there's these little tabs around the corners of the faceplate. We'll just gently pop those up with a pocket screwdriver and then pry the faceplate off of the radio. Pull the faceplate straight off. There's lots of little pins in here, and you do not want to bend the pins for the connectors. First, we have to pull the volume power button off, and I believe these two have to come off as well to allow the faceplate to come off. And there is one tiny screw here that has to come off as well. Okay, now faceplate pops right off. There's those pins I was talking about. Don't pry the faceplate, just pull it straight off. You don't want to bend those connectors that power the faceplate. So now we can disassemble the faceplate and get into where our illumination is. And to do that, I believe we've got to remove these small Phillips head screws, one here and one here. And I believe that's all that really holds this faceplate circuit board in place. and our faceplate pops off like so. Now we can see our bulbs we'll be replacing. We have one here, one here, one here, one here, and then underneath this cover for the quartz display, there is one in this corner. And to remove this cover, there are little metallic tangs that are bent over. Just straighten those tangs and this cover piece slides right off. Alright, the little tangs are now straight, and I should be able to wiggle it out through the board. Just be careful as you do so, you don't want to crack the circuit board in any place. And there we go. Cover pops up, set that aside. Now we can access the bulb. The main bulb that burns out on these, which is this one that illuminates your clock and your radio display at night. So what we're going to do now is go around, take our soldering iron, and we're going to desolder all the pins on the back side of these lights and pull these lights off the circuit board. Alright, I'm not sure how well any of this is going to show up. As fine a detail it is as it is, and I'm trying to film all this with the GoPro. Let's see if I can get a better, get you a little closer to the action. So what we're going to do, I've marked on the board with Sharpie the tails of the lights. So I'm going to go through, heat up the solder joints, use the solder sucker to desolder and pull out the little fixtures, and then we can get to assembling our LED fixtures with resistors. Just waiting for the soldering iron to get warmed up. And put a little bit of fresh solder on the end of the tip, just to help get that old solder to melt again. And what we'll do, get our solder sucker and the soldering iron, go to the board, melt that old solder, suck it off there with the solder sucker. And then we should be able to pull our little light fixture out from the back side. And there we go, the first little incandescent light is out, which this one was burnt out anyway. This is the one for the display. So go ahead and continue to remove the rest on the board and clean up the board for our new lights. And there we go, we got all of our little incandescent lights removed. So now we can start assembling our LED resistor combo replacements. Which I go around the board and clean up a little bit the old solder off of the old pads. So we have a few different options on LEDs we can use. I have several different sizes and styles of surface mount LEDs. We have, I don't know if any of these are marked, and I can't remember off the top of my head what size they are. Here's the 5630, and this one is a 5050. So, pull these out. I can't remember which one I've used in the past, but we'll figure it out. And for resistors, I don't know if this one's marked. It is. These are Panasonics. They're 221 ohm. Not sure about the wattage though, but they're a little flat surface mount resistor. Come in a little band like this. Pick them off one by one as you need them. So I'm gonna experiment real quick with some combinations of which LED and resistor. I've got some more resistors to use, and I will come back once I've remembered what I used in the past or what seems to fit the best and is the brightest. All right, as you can see, I've got the illumination now working for the display's backlight, which we can turn on and off. It's gonna be hard to show this process now that I've gotten into it, but what I ended up using was the 5050 LED and the 221 resistor. What I did was lay them end to end, solder the negative end of the LED to the resistor, then I solder on two solid core copper thin gauge wires. She uses the positive and negative to feed through the holes in the circuit board and then solder them in place. And that's what I've done here on this display. Let me pop the display board off, or power this off. All right. So I don't know if you'll be able to see very well, but what we got here is the back of the 5050 LED with the resistor mounted on the top here, and then the two pigtails coming from the back to be soldered onto the board. So I apologize for the quality of this video already. I know it's going to be really bad. I'm probably going to just take some pictures up close to better highlight what I'm doing here, because I don't think I'll be able to pick it up on the camera. Okay, I've gone through and marked the polarity of each light with the positive and negative across the circuit board. That way I can assemble my LEDs and solder them in place with the right polarity, and we can finish this up. All right, back to the car. Key on, we have our display illuminated. Cut on the parking lights, and as you see, all of our LEDs are now running. So we are good to reassemble the radio, and we can start on the CD player. I'm gonna pop the faceplate on real quick, just to give you that last shot of the illumination. All right, so we just installed the faceplate. It's exactly the reverse of removing it You put the 2 little screws back in that secure the circuit board inside of the faceplate, pop the faceplate back on, and then put the little Phillips screw here in the side. Be gentle when doing this. You don't want to break the circuit board, crack the circuit board, or anything else. Just take your time, it'll pop right in. So here's key on, our nice bright LED illuminated display now that was burnt out. And we turn on our lights and we have our LED illuminated radio. We get a shot at a little bit darker, give you a little better look at it, but I'm gonna pull apart the CD deck real quick, and it's the same process in that. I'll show you pulling the CD deck apart, putting the LEDs in it and reassembling it. On to the CD deck now. It is essentially the same as the radio. It just pops loose, pop the faceplate up and pull it forward and come right off of there. Just take a pocket screwdriver and go around the edge and gently pop up the little tabs. I do mean gently. This is old plastic, so it will be a little brittle. But just work your way around, popping up the little tabs as you go, and the faceplates will come right off. And there we go. Faceplate is now popped off. And here we see our illumination for the faceplate of the CD deck. There's a bulb here, 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 and here. 4 bulbs in total. And to remove this circuit board, you have a little Phillips screw here. And if I recall correctly, that's all that holds it in place. Remove this Phillips screw and then wiggle back and forth a little bit, and it'll come loose. There is a multi-pin connector there. You want to be very careful of not to bend or break those pins when you pop the faceplate off for the CD deck. Now we're just going to go through and repeat the exact same process I showed on the radio. We're going to go through and desolder all the the incandescent bulbs, and assemble our LED replacements and solder them in place, reassemble, and we'll be ready to reinstall the assembly in the car. Hook up the illumination circuit for the CD deck real quick so you can see we only have 2 of the little incandescent bulbs still burning. This one up here is burnt out, and this one for the display is burnt out as well. So that's why we're in here replacing this stuff. Alright, got all our LEDs soldered on to the board for the CD player. So time to snap the front plate back on it and put it back on the player. Alright, faceplate's back on, radio's assembled, side brackets are on, plugged up. Time to go reinstall it in the car. Gonna hook the radio up, reinstall the surrounding trim, exact reversal of removal. So bright it's not even picking up on the video. There we go. Nice clean white LED light, no more gross green incandescent backlight. Put the CD in real quick. You can see the CD display. Boom. Oh, and before you ask in the comments below, yes, these are still dimmable on your factory dimmer switch with the rest of your interior lights, because we put those resistors in there. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one.